Hello, hello, hello. Mic is okay? ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पतानः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनं श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। Dear friends, we are seeing this 29th shloka. I have just read this shloka and explained the meaning. We have to read the bhashyam. The context is that Lord Krishna is describing different types of yajnas. He is describing, say, what are the things which are metaphorically called as fire, and what are the things which you have to offer there as an oblation or as an offering. There is a fire and there is an oblation. Different things are designated as fires, and different things which you are supposed to sacrifice, which you are supposed to give up, or which you are supposed to restrain, they are all called the oblations or offerings. So all these things we have been seeing. And then in the last shloka, we saw dravya yajñas, tapo yajñah, yoga yajñah, all types of dravya yajñah, tapo yajñah, yoga yajñah, all these things we have seen. And in the same yoga, two more shlokas are there, one more shloka is there, which is elaborating that the process of yoga. In fact, these two shlokas relating to this yoga, pranayama, etc. They have to be properly known from the say traditional gurus who are actually practicing yoga. We might have read some books here and there about yoga. So incidentally, it so happens that my grandfather was a yogi. He was doing some yoga. He was doing yoga. He was actually sitting confined in a room. He was confining himself in a room. And then he was just doing pranayama for hours. And in that context, there were many old books in my house, which I had seen since my childhood. But I myself sincerely never practiced yoga, though whatever is compulsory with respect to, say, this Sandhya Vandan, that I have been doing, but not for hours and hours. So if you practice like that as prescribed in those texts of yoga, then probably you will know what exactly are the types of vayus you are conquering, what is the type of stage, what is the level which you are in, and what is the type of siddhi you are having. So that I do not know, but then I will only give you the literal meaning of this thing. In the last class I was explaining how some of these yogic exercises and all these mudras, they are so similar. In fact, even in the South Asian countries, I was referring to say those postures which these karate and kung fu people they do. Some of these mudras, they totally tally with our Sandhyavandana mudras and all, or some other puja mudras. For example, Tatsavituhu Brahmatmane Angushtabhyam Namaha, Varenyam Vishnuatmane Tajjanibhyam Namaha, Pargo Devasya Rudratmane Madhyamabhyam Namaha. Like this, these fingers exercises and all these things, and some other mudras, they tally with so many of these martial arts practices also. So this yoga, martial arts and all these things, obviously they were developed by some of these monks and yogis only. And unfortunately we have lost the tradition, whereas in some other countries probably it is well preserved. So anyway, these things, this like apane juhvati pranam, I was explaining that prana, I was also telling about these different types of vayus. The same vayu, by being present in different parts of the body, it does different functions. The same vayu cannot be totally different in different places. The same vayu, it does different functions. The lower portion is governed by apana vayu, the upper portion is governed by prana vayu. Then udana kantadeshastaha, though there is one vayu which is called udana, which controls this up throat and upwards. Udana kantadeshastaha samano navisamsthitaha, there is one vayu which is there in the solar plexus area, which controls say this digestion and then food distribution. So things like that. Likewise, so I was telling about these five vayus. What is this? Hrudip prane Gude apanaha samano nabhisamsthitaha udana kantadeshastaha vyana sarvashariragaha. Vyana is one vayu which is there present everywhere, all over the body, maintaining the pressure in the body. So likewise, different functions were envisaged. We do not know how far this thing will stand to a scientific scrutiny. Maybe somebody has to do some research as to what type of what is the validity of this, what is the scientific truth in this. But anyway, so these were the things which the ancients practiced. In fact, the ancients did all different types of practices with the human body. After all, it is only the body and mind. These are the only tools which we have, either to see the external world or to look inwards and look about your own nature, to think about Paramatma, that supreme being. Whatever you want to do, these are the only two tools. You have a body mind complex. That is the only thing. That's all. So they had to experiment with so many types of bodily rhythms. I was also telling about what is called Swara Shastra. Swara Shastra, it tells about how this breath alternates between the right nostril and left nostril every 2 hours. Every 2 hours the breath changes. And then when when you are having when you are doing breathing through the left nostril, it is called what is called Ida. Then the moon is supposed to be operating. We are under the influence of the moon, where the mental functions are slightly more active. Then when you are having this passage of air through the right nostril, this sun is active, and then prana shakti is active. You are more vigorous, and then you are more likely to do, you will be more successful in doing physical activities. For example, a runner, a sprinter, let us say, a sprinter, he will do better sprinting if he has got if the air flow is through the right nostril. So something like that. So that Swara Shastra does such an elaborate study of this rhythm in the body, and even probably scientifically also there is some validity in that, because the body also has some sort of electromagnetic system. So there the text Swara Shastra says what are the things which you are supposed to do when you are breathing through the left nostril, what are the things you are supposed to do when you are breathing through the right nostril. So like that, Ida, Pingala, Sushumna. So likewise they keep on saying, and in fact they also go to the extent of even if you want a child what should be your airflow, and what should be your wife's airflow, through which nostril, so something like that. So all these things, what type of things have to be done, so like that. Anyway, we need not go into that. We are here in this apane juhvati pranam. This apana, I said, it controls the lower parts of the body. Hrudi prane gude apana. That is in the the lower portion of the body. Then juhvati, that means they offer. Juhvati is plural. What do you mean by that? The pranavayu has to be breathed in. This pranavayu, and then in this pranayam also, I told you that this right and left nostrils, they keep on alternating. So if you just keep your finger like this, you will know which nose is active, which nostril is active. Right now my left nostril is active, so I have to breathe through my left nostril. So while breathing, we have to hold our fingers like this. So if the fingers are like this, you fold these two, and then this thumb should be there on this lobe, and then this thing should be there on this lobe. And then here you have to press this one, you have to leave this finger floating, and then you have to breathe slowly. So this pranavayu I have breathed. Of course, while talking I am letting out the breath, but while this pranavayu I have breathed in, this is supposed to be this apane juhvati pranam. So I have taken this prana air, and then I have offered it into what is called apana. So this is not as simple as this. Say, you see, whenever we do this pranayama, we don't do it in a very empty manner. We also associate it with some mantra. Pranayama is always associated with some mantra, not merely mere chanting or mere repetition of the mantra, but contemplating the meaning of that mantra. So these two things are there. Then why are we doing this breathing? In what way is breath connected with that? Because breathing is something, breathing and mind, these two things are interrelated. Our bodily, when the mind is suddenly provoked or active, your breath also, there will be some dislocation in the type of breath. You will be breathing normally till then. Suddenly you become angry, then your breath also changes. Similarly, when the breath changes, the mind also, suppose you try to control your breathing, and then you slowly do it in a very rhythmic manner, your mind also falls into some type of say drill, and then it falls into some type of discipline. So if you control the body, if you control the rhythm of this breathing, you can control the mind also. Otherwise the mind will be wavering. You may be chanting the mantra, the mind will be going here and there. So you have to contemplate on the meaning of that mantra. So for that reason, you are supposed to do both this, this pranayama along with the mantra. So that is why we say during our Sandhya Vandan, Daivi Gayatri Chandaha Pranayame Viniyogaha. So we say Daivi Gayatri Chandas is used in pranayama. So that pranayama, or otherwise pranayama is used in this, whatever you want to say. So pranayama and this Gayatri, these two are combined so that they will give a positive effect. So otherwise, normally when you do this pranayama, suppose you just keep on reciting this mantra, you may or may not get the concentration of mind. So in order to achieve concentration of mind, you are doing this pranayama. So that is the basic meaning. So basically to restrain the mind, because the mind is something which is linked with this breath, and then we also dwell on this meaning. So this is what these two things are there. Apane juhvati pranam, prane apanam tatha pare. Then prane apanam, that is prana is exhaled, it is sent out, it is totally sent out. Then bhavana, the idea is that apana is pushing it out, so this prana vayu has gone out. So that is called rechaka. Then pranapana gati ruddhva. Pranapana gati means the movement of both prana and apana. That is called pranapana gati. Gatihi gati gatayah. Gati is in dual number. Pranapana gati. Ruddhva means having restrained. Having restrained means, so you have restrained both prana and apana. What does it mean? You have just inhaled. You do this. And then you have just retained without leaving it out. You can't retain it for a long time. Of course, there is some little bit of cycle. Some people who do pranayama, they do observe a cycle. You suppose you slowly, and this breathing should not be done fast. You should not do like this. Not like, of course, that is a different type of pranayama, it is there, but normal pranayama for the purpose of meditation, it's not like that. For the purpose of meditation, it has to be very, very slow. Very slow. Then pranayama gati ruddhva means, that is called just retaining whatever you have breathed in the lungs. That is what is called kumbhakam. Puraka means, the meaning of purakam means filling. Rechakam, the meaning of rechakam is exhaling. The meaning of retaining is called kumbhakam. Just keep it like that. Suppose if I want to totally demonstrate, so I told you this thumb has to press this lobe, and then the other finger, the ring finger, has to press this lobe. Suppose I am breathing in through my left nostril. So this finger is floating in the air. I suppose I breathe like this. And while breathing, you remember I am chanting this, what is this Gayatri mantra also. So like that I have breathed. Suppose you recite, if you recite this Gayatri mantra, you recite 3 times. So while you recite once, I will inhale. At the second recitation, I will just keep it retained. At the third recital, I will exhale. So please repeat, say the Gayatri mantra.
Om Bhuvah Om Savaha Om Mahaha Om Janaha Om Tabha Om Satyam Om Tatsam Pragare Yadimam Bhargo Devaswari Mahidhi Om Yonav Prachodaya Om Mavo Jyotikasomudam Brahma Bhavat Suvarum Om Bhuvah Om Savaha Om Mahaha Om Janaha Om Tabha Om Satyam Om Tatsam Pragare Yadimam Bhargo Devaswari Mahidhi Om Yonav Prachodaya Om Mavo Jyotikasomudam Brahma Bhavat Suvarum.
So what I have done is, when you first recited this Gayatri mantra, throughout the length of that Gayatri mantra, I slowly inhaled. Throughout the length. So throughout, while reciting that Gayatri mantra, we have to just slowly inhale. And then the second one, the second recital, just keep inside. Just retain whatever you have, breathed. And then the third recital, you slowly send it out. So in 1:1:1 ratio, you have maintained that thing. So people who do some more serious pranayama, they do it much more slowly. They do it much more slowly. Suppose you recite, this Gayatri mantra is recited 2 times while doing this Purakam, filling. And Gayatri mantra is recited 4 times during this Kumbhakam while retaining. Again, Gayatri mantra is recited twice while exhaling. So like that, 2:4:2 or 1:2:1, that length will be more. Length will be more. 2 times Gayatri, 4 times retention, and 2 times bringing down. So like that, Puraka Pranayama some people do, Kumbhaka Pranayama some people do, and Rechaka Pranayama some people do, along with this contemplation of this meditation on this Gayatri mantra. It is also associated with, sometimes it is associated with various chakras which are there in the body. We know that the body, we always say that the body is consisting of the 5 elements. So the five elements, we know, earth, air, fire, water, and space. So this Prithvi, Apas, Tejo, Vayu, Akasha, these 5 things, they are also there in the body. So the rectum represents earth. Then the other, say not uterus, what is this? The urinary bladder, etc. And that system, that system represents the water. Then the stomach represents fire. Manipura chakra it is called. The first chakra is called Mooladhara. Then the other thing is Swadhisthana. Then this other chakra is Manipura. Then this chakra which controls the breathing, it is called Anahata chakra. And then Anahata chakra represents Vayu. The Prithvi, Apaha, Teja, Vayu. Akasha is represented by this throat which is called Vishuddhi chakra. And then again Agnya chakra. Above these 5 elements, then comes the mind. Above these 5 things comes the mind, which is the cognitive faculty, etc. So this is called the Agnya chakra, which is there in the eye. Eye means eye represents all other senses also. Not only eye represents the senses. And above the senses is the Sahasrara chakra. That is where you have got this reflection of this supreme consciousness. Sahasrara chakra is the place. That is where that so-called Kundalini is aroused, and all these things, the people talk about Kundalini and whatnot. So all these things, they are there described in the yoga textbooks, which you have to of course know from an authentic yoga teacher. You should not go to any quack. You should see, you should test that man whether he is actually trained in a proper manner, or he is just doing it as a business. So if you have to go to a chap who is not doing it for business and who is teaching it in a very authentic manner. So only then you will know what are the practices traditionally which are told, or what are the siddhis which are traditionally told in this pranayama. So let us see this bhashyam. Apane vruttau juhvati prakshipanti pranam pranavrittim purakakhyam pranayamam kurvanti ityarthaha. So apana vruttau, in that apana vayu, juhvati prakshipanti, they offer what? Pranam pranavrittim. This prana, or this prana vayu which is inhaled, that is offered into apana. So that is what is called purakakhyam pranayamam kurvanti. They do what is called puraka, the pranayama which is named as purakam. Pranayama, I told you what is the meaning of prana ayama. Ayama means stretching. Like that's what we did. I just did like this. I closed this nostril and then slowly this is stretching. So something like expanding the chest. Slowly you are say it is something like a stretching of a bow. So that is what ayama. The word ayama gives 2 meanings. One is stretching and one is restraint. So anyway, पूरकाख्यं प्राणायामं कुर्वन्ति इत्यर्थः. Then प्राणे अपानं तथा अपरे जुह्वति रेचकाख्यं च प्राणायामं कुर्वन्ति इत्येतत्. तथा अपरे, likewise some others, apare means some others, juhvati, they offer what? Rechakakyam cha pranayamam kurvanti. Rechakam means removal. Rechakam is basically to exhale. That rechakam actually means removal or emptying. Rechaka actually means emptying. So the emptying means just push out the air. That is exhalation. They do that thing as a pranayama. While associating with these mantras, of course, that is not mentioned here, associating with these mantras always. Then pranapana gati mukhanasikaabhyam vayoha nirgamanam pranasya gatihi tadviparyayena adhogamanam apanasya te pranapana gati एते रुद्ध्वा निरुध्य प्राणायामपरायणाः प्राणायामतत्पराः कुम्भकाख्यं प्राणायामं कुर्वन्ति इत्यर्थः. So this प्राणे अपानं तथा अपरे जुह्वति रेचकाख्य प्राणायामं कुर्वन्ति इत्येतत्. Okay, प्राणापान गति means what? मुखनासिकाभ्यां वायोः निर्गमनं प्राणस्य गतिः. प्राणस्य गतिः, the movement, gati means movement. Gati means is the movement or path. What is the movement of this prana? That is mukhanasikaabhyam. Mukha is mouth, nasika is this. So coming out through the mouth and the nostrils, that is the gati, that is the path of prana. And the path of apana is to go down from the rectum. To go down from the rectum, that is the path of the apana. So these two things, they are ruddhva. Ruddhva means having restrained, totally controlled. In fact, they also contract the rectal muscles. Some of these yogis I have seen, they also say during the time of this pranayama, they also contract and release the rectal muscles. So they do all types of things. So anyway, pranasya gatihi tadviparyayena adhogamanam apanasya te pranapana gati. Tadviparyayena means in contrast to that, adhogatihi, going down, prana going down is called apana, this air going down is called apana. Then te pranapana gati yete ruddhva nirudhya, having restrained them, pranayama parayanaha. Those who think that pranayama is supreme, pranayama parayanaha, the expression is not a very, very flattering expression. Lord Krishna is not praising them. Lord Krishna is actually what you can say damning with faint praise. It is called damning with faint praise. That is, okay, pranayama parayana, these fellows who do this pranayama, who think that pranayama is the ultimate thing. So in that sense, that is the tone. Pranayama parayana, the tone of that word is like that. Parayanam, what is parayanam? Para plus ayanam is parayanam. The same thing as parayanam. You say Ramayana, Parayanam. What do you mean by Parayanam? Para plus Ayanam. That is the supreme path. So you believe that reading of Ramayana every day is the supreme path. Gita Parayanam, reading Gita every day is that supreme path, because that is going to give you lot many good things, that is going to enlighten you, that is going to give you wisdom, Brahmagyanam and whatnot. So that is what is called Parayana, Parayanatvam. So here, Pranayama Parayana, these people are only basically concentrating on this Pranayama. So they feel that Puraka, Kumbhaka, Rechaka, and then they feel that they have attained some powers, they have attained some physical powers. In fact, all these physical powers are also described in pranayama by stiffening the body. That is what these say martial arts people also do. Just breathe in and then stiffen the body. So these are also described in this yoga textbooks. Hatha yoga, particularly Hatha yoga textbooks, they also describe these things. So pranayama parayana, these people, they are not bothered about shravana, manana, nididhyasana, etc. They are simply bothered about this pranayama. They feel that they are attaining some siddhi, and then they are attaining by reciting some mantra. They feel that they are attaining some siddhi and some shakti, some physical powers, etc. So that is why Krishna is talking in a rather disparaging manner about this pranayama parayana. These fellows, they indulge in pranayama. Then the indulge means not in a bad sense. These people, they think that pranayama is the ultimate. Pranayama tatparaha, tatparaha. Tatpara also is the same thing. Tatpara, param is the supreme. Tatparaha means they think that that is the supreme. Pranayama parayanaha, tatparaha are one and the same. Then kumbhakakyam pranayamam kurvanti. Kumbhakakyam. Kumbhakakyam is that which is called kumbhaka. That which is called kumbhaka, that pranayamam they do. Then next shloka, kincha.
Kincha.
Then let us read the shloka. Apare niyataharaha
Apare niyatahara.
pranan praneshu juhvati
Pranan praneshu juhvati.
sarvepyete yajnavido
Sarvepyate yajnavido.
yajnakshapita kalmashaha.
Yajnakshapita kalmashaha.
Okay, apare niyataharaha. Apare, some others. What do they do? Niyata aharaha. So who restrain their food. Ahara means any type of thing. Ahara, any type of thing which you take in. Sorry. Ahriyate iti aharaha. Ahriyate means whatever you take inside is ahara. In fact, one commentator, Nilakantha, he is talking about ahara means Vishaya Bhogaha. Aha, Nigruhitaha aharaha Vishaya Bhogaha yaiste niyataharaha. He says, Vishaya Bhogas you are restraining. With senses, you are taking in all types of sensory objects. Restraining these sensory objects, not taking in these sensory objects, that is called niyatahara. That is in his view. But Shankaracharya gives the literal meaning. Shankaracharya here is giving food. Ahara, normal meaning is food. Niyataharaha, he is using that, he is taking the basic literal meaning of that word. Niyata aharaha means who take food in a very restrained manner. Then pranan praneshu juhvati. These pranas, they are offering in pranas. This is again rather a complicated word which we have to again learn from traditional yogis only. Dictionaries will, commentaries cannot say. only yogis should be able to say. Shankaracharya is going to say this pranavayu bhedan praneshveva juhvati yasyasya vayor jayah kriyate. So he is talking about these 5 years which I said, prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. So these 5 you have to conquer one after the other, he says. You have to conquer one after the other means maybe conquering say this food system first, conquering the fire system, conquering the water system, conquering the air system. So something like that, restraining all those things. That is something which is meant there, which we have to learn only from traditional yogis. Apare pranan praneshu juhvati sarve piyete yajnavidaha. All these people are yajnavidaha. All these people means not only this niyataharaha, whatever we have seen, all this for the last 10 shlokas, Daivameva pare yajnam yoginah paryupasate, all these shlokas put together, he is referring to all those people. We have seen Dravya yajna, Tapo yajna, Jnana yajna, Swadhyaya yajna, all these people. And then the Apane Juhvati Pranam, Purakavara Pranayama is one yajna, Rechaka Pranayama is another yajna. So like that, Kumbhaka Pranayama is another yajna. So all these people, Sarve Piyate Yajna Vidaha. All these people are doing some useful thing. Yajna Vidaha means those who are doing some useful thing. Yajna, we are referring to any righteous activity, any activity which is useful to society, any activity which is useful for self-purification. In 2 senses we have been saying. Some activity which is useful for society and some activity which is useful for his Chitta Shuddhi, that is self-purification, purification of the mind. So that is it. Yajna vidaha, yajna kshapita kalmashaha. By this yajna, by whatever righteous action he is doing, all the impurities, all these impurities are washed away or burnt away, because we are using the word yajna. We are thinking about a fire, and in that fire you are offering something, and when you offer something in the fire, the duty of the fire is to remove all the impurities, and also give you like some light and brilliance, which means give you some jnanam, purify your thoughts. So that is what is the yajna. Yajna kshapita kalmashaha means those whose all their mental impurities have been burnt away by this yajna. So that is the meaning here. Let us read the bhashyam. Apare niyataharaha niyataha parimitaha aharaha येषां
येषां
ते नियताहाराः
ते नियताहाराः
सन्तः
सन्तः
प्राणान्
प्राणान्
वायुभेदान्
वायुभेदान्
प्राणेष्वेव जुह्वति
प्राणेष्वेव जुह्वति
यस्य यस्य वायोर्जयः
यस्य वायोर्जयः
क्रियते
क्रियते
इतरान्
इतरान्
वायुभेदान्
वायुभेदान्
तस्मिन्
तस्मिन्
ट्वैस् तस्मिन् जुह्वति.
तस्मिन् जुह्वति.
Okay. So, niyata aharaha, that is parimita aharaha, those who take food in a very restrained way. I think we can also accept the meaning given by Nilakantha Chaturdhara. Nigruhitaha Vishaya Bhogaha Yaiste, those people who are restraining all this Vishaya Bhogaha. That also it doesn't matter because it is not contradicting the Siddhanta. It is not contradicting the Advaita Siddhanta. Whatever commentary is not contradicting the Siddhanta, we can accept, there is no harm. Then Niyatahara Santaha Pranan Vayu Bhedan. All these Vayu Bhedas, these 5 different types of Vayus, they again offering in this the same Vayus. That is, you get control over this apana, say, let us say, and then from that into that you offer some other say vyana or some other thing, which means you have to control one air after the other. So that is basically controlling the bodily airs, maybe controlling the bodily functions, maybe controlling say the people, they were going without food for days and days. So which means you have controlled this say this digestive system. That is what is this samana, the samana vayu you are controlling. That is why you are going out, you can be there without food for any longer time. You can be there without water. You can be there without air also. So like that is what is meant by conquering these airs. So one after the other probably these people were doing. That is possible only by constant practice. Only by experience one has to know. We cannot say just like that. So pranan vayu bhedan praneshveva juhvati. Yasya vayor jayaha kriyate. Vayor jayaha. He is using the word jaya. Jaya means whatever vayu you are conquering. Jaya means conquering. Whatever vayu you are conquering, the other one you are offering into that. Itaran vayu bhedan tasmin juhvati. You conquer 2 and again thereinto you put another thing. Then you have conquered 3. You put the 4th one, you have conquered 4. You put the 5th one, you have conquered 5. So something like that. Probably they were say all these things they practiced because all these people, they were staying in the forest. You have to remember that all these chaps, many people in olden days did so many experiments with the body and mind. It is inconceivable. They did all types of experiences. For example, there is a poet, there is a very great philosopher called Appaya Dikshita. He is a 17th century Vedanta. He is Advaita Vedanti who has written about 100 texts. Not only Vedanta, he has written on say Alankara Shastra, he has written on several other things. Appaya Dikshita, very great say saint and a great Shiva Bhakta also. So he did one strange experiment. He took some say, you know what is this Ummetta Kaya? Ummetta, English word I do not know. It is a very poisonous fruit. It is a very poisonous say plant, giving some small fruits. And then people who want to commit suicide also, they take, if you take those fruits in large number, the people simply die. So, but then if taken in small quantities, people, they go into a delirium. They go into a state of delirium. They do not know what they are talking. They will become mad. Something like becoming mad. So this man, he wanted to test his Shiva Bhakti. Somebody probably might have challenged his Shiva Bhakti, his devotion to Shiva. So he wanted to test his Shiva Bhakti. Suppose I take those Ummetta fruits and then I talk whatever I want. So he asked his Shishyas, okay, I am taking these Ummetta fruits. And then if the dose is too much and then if I am likely to die, you please give the antidote. Because these psychedelic drugs, they also have some antidotes. So he kept all those things and then he asked his Shishyas, his disciples, to record what all he said. What all he said in that state of delirium. So he took all these Ummetta fruits, Ummetta things, and then he went into a delirium. And in that state of delirium, he told 50 shlokas on, praising Lord Shiva. That is a very wonderful composition called Unmatta Panchashika. Unmatta. Somebody who is Unmatta means highly intoxicated. Not merely intoxicated by drink, he is intoxicated by a sort of psychedelic substance, something like heroin or these drugs which we see now, something like heroin or LSD. He has taken some such thing, a native kind, of course, not a processed thing, a native kind of drug he has taken. And then at that time the Shishyas, they questioned him about Lord Shiva. When they questioned him about Lord Shiva, then he recited those poems. So he recited 50 poems in that trance, and then later, of course, the story is that the Shishyas, they gave some antidote, and then he came out of it and things like that. So people were doing all types of strange experiments in olden days. Of course, we are very, very careful with everything, but in olden days, people were just leaving everything and going into the forest. We have to see their sense of dedication. And then the same sense of this gentleman, he lived in 17th century, Apaya Dikshita. So like that, Sarve Piyate Yajna Kshapita Kalmashaha Vayu Bhedan Yase Vayorjitaha Tasmin Juhvati. So in that, say Vayu, they were offering these fires. So that means they are gaining a total restraint and control on the body. Then Te Tatra Pravishta iva bhavanti. So these airs, te means airs, these vayus, tatra pravishta iva bhavanti. It is as though, pravishta iva, as though one vayu has entered into other, as though one vayu has entered into the other, which means they are gaining full control on the bodily functions. So that is it. Sarvepi yete yajna vidaha yajna kshapita kalmashaha yajnaihi yathoktaihi kshapitaha nashitaha kalmashaha yesham te yajna kshapita kalmashaha. So this I explained. Sarve piyete yajna vidaha. Yete means these people, all these people who have been described in the previous shlokas, they are all people who know what is a yajna, what is a righteous action, what is something which is useful externally to the society and what is useful internally, that is for himself, for self-purification. Yajna kshapita kalmashaha, yajnaihi yathoktaihi. Yathoktaihi means, as it is, the yajnas which have been described above, kshapitaha nashitaha kalmashaha. So their kalmasha, their impurity, kalmasha means impurity. All these impurities of mind, they have been not washed away, they have been burnt away by this process of offering, by this metaphorical offering into the fires. So that is it. Then, evam yathoktani, yatoktan jnana nivartya yajna, what is it? Yatoktan yajnan nirvartya Yajna Shishtamurta Bhujaha. Oh, this is the commentary straight away. We have to read this shloka. Okay. Let us read this shloka. Yajna Shishtamurta Bhujo Yanti Brahma Sanatanam Nayam Lokostya Yajnasya Kutonya Kurusattama. So Lord Krishna is addressing Arjuna as Kuru Sattama, oh mighty man among Kurus. So he is saying, you are not an ordinary man, you are a mighty person among the Kuru, in the Kuru dynasty. What is he saying? Yajna Shishtamurta Bhujaha Yanti Brahma Sanatanam. So all these people who take the food after performing yajna. So yajna we have seen of two types. One is that Dravya Yajna, where you say offer lot many say things to various people. All this you do various types of dhanam. You distribute food to so many people, and after distributing food to all these people, whatever remains. Then Atithi Yajna also is there. Atithi Yajna, you have to give food to all your guests first, and then whatever remains you have to eat. So that is what is called Atithi Yajna. So whatever is remaining is called Shishtam. Shishta is Shesham, Shesham is remainder. Whatever remains is called Shishtam or remainder. So Yajna Shishtam, that itself is treated as Amrutam. That is what is called Amrutam. Yajna Shishtamrutam. Yajna produces Drushtaphala and also Adrushtaphala. By yajna, so many people are happy, and then you are also getting some punyam. Punyam gives some phalam. Punyam naturally gives some phalam. Phalam in the shape of some Adrushtaphalam. And that phalam is called Amrutam, metaphorically called Amrutam. It is not that permanent Amrutam which you say that, not that immortality which you gain by jnana. It is a sort of relative immortality. Because this punyam is going to give us some good results, it is going to take us to some good lokas. So that is it. Yajna Shishtamruta Bhujaha. Bhujaha means, Bhujam is not shoulder. Yajna Shishtamruta Bhuja. Bhuj, dhatu, eat. Those who eat, Yajna Shishtamruta Bhuk is the word, Bhujaha is the plural. Yajna Shishtamruta Bhuk is a long word. That is the first, that is the Prathama Vibhakti. Bhuk bhujau bhujaha, yajna shishtamruta bhujaha, yanti brahma sanatanam. Sanatanam brahma yanti. They attain that supreme eternal Brahman. How? Because all these things, they are all yajna, they are all karmajaha. They are all karmas, different karmas only. They fall under the category of karma. And karma is not going to give you moksha. So here when he says yanti brahma sanatanam, we have to take it that not literally. We have to take it that slowly, krama mukti. We know the word what is called krama mukti, in a gradual way. All these karmas, they are going to lead you, give you chitta shuddhi. And from chitta shuddhi, you are becoming eligible for that Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. So because this chitta shuddhi is something which is a prerequisite for jnana. And because of that, you are slowly, you will attain krama mukti. So that is the, say, slow path. So here when Krishna says yanti brahma sanatanam, we should not take that it will straight away lead you to moksha. It's not that, it will slowly lead you to moksha. Then the second line says na ayam lokaha asti. Na ayam lokosti means na plus ayam nayam lokaha asti ayajñasya kutaha anyaha. Ayajña means one who does not perform any yajna. So we have seen various types of yajnas. Somebody doing pranayama, somebody doing atithi yajna, somebody doing deva yajna, somebody doing some pitru yajna, somebody doing some other, all these activities which are useful, all these righteous actions. So somebody who is not doing anything, he is called ayajna, somebody absolutely nothing. So that fellow, na ayam lokaha asti kutaha anyaha. So for such a fellow, he has no good result in this world. What to talk of another world? He will not attain anything good in this world. Na ayam lokosti. That means ayam lokaha na asti. He will not attain anything good in this loka. Because a fellow who is not helping others, a fellow who is not giving food to anybody, a fellow who is not controlling his senses, a fellow who is not having self-discipline, he will be shunned by all people. He will be rejected by all people. So which means na ayam lokaha asti. Ayam lokaha, this loka itself has shunned him. This loka has disregarded him. This loka has kicked him out. So this fellow is shunned here. What to talk about another loka? Only when a man is praised here, only when a man is doing some good work here, maybe he may think of some good life at a later stage. Pretya. But then a fellow who does not do anything good, and then a fellow who is condemned by the entire society, what to talk about any other loka? He is a failure in this loka. There is no question of he is getting another loka. So that is the meaning here. Na ayam lokosti means ayam lokaha nasti. This loka itself is not there for him. What to talk about? Kutaha anyaha. What to talk about another loka? For whom? For ayajñaha. For a person who is not doing any good activity. Hey Kurusattama. He's just saying. Because all yajna is something like karma only. So he will slowly lead to mukti. Slowly through the process of chitta shuddhi. So let us read the bhashyam. Evam yatoktan yajñan nirvartya yajna shishtamruta bhujaha yajñanam shishtam yajna shishtam yajna shishtam cha tadamrutam tadamrutam cha yajna shishtamrutam tadbhunjate iti yajna shishtamruta bhujaha. Okay. This yajna shishtamruta bhuja is the word he is explaining. Shankaracharya is explaining. Yajnanam shishtam yajna shishtam. So whatever is remaining. So in fact, yajna, they used to offer what is called purodasha. Puroda is some type of wheat preparation, wheat flour. It is something similar to bread. I feel that puroda is something related to bread. Puroda, they call it burrito, and they also call it bread. Burrito is something Italian dish. If you go to some Italian hotels, you will see what is called burrito. Puroda, and then bread. So it is some type of wheat flour, something made of wheat flour. So purodasham. So that purodasham was supposed to be a very sacred thing, which was distributed to all the people immediately after the yajna. So yajna sishta asanam. That itself is amrutam. Amrutam, I explained. Amrutam is not that say eternal immortality. It is something a sort of relative immortality, because all these good deeds, they are giving you some punyam, and according to that punyam you will get some punya phalam. So that is how we have to take it. Yajna shishta amrutam tat bhunjate. Bhunjate means they eat. Bhunjate is plural. Bhunjate, bhunkte, bhunjate, bhunjate. That is plural. They eat. Iti brahma yajna shishta amruta bhujaha. The people who eat the food which is remaining after performing yajna. Then yathoktan yajnan krutva tat shishtena. Did we read this? Okay. Yathoktan yajnan krutva tat shishtena kalena yatha vidhi choditam annam amrutakhyam bhunjate iti yajna shishtamrita bhujaha. So we have seen that all the above people, they are not doing the same type of dravya yajna. In dravya yajna, there is something remaining. What about some fellow who is only doing pranayama? Fellow who is only doing pranayama, there is nothing remaining. So that shishtena kalena. So in the remaining time, so he keeps on doing that pranayama for hours and hours. That shishtena kalena, in that remaining time, yatha vidhichoditam annam. So he will eat in a limited manner, yatha vidhichoditam. Whatever has been prescribed, whatever is, say, pranayama is another thing, where all the yoga texts, they prescribe a lot of, they describe a lot of food restrictions. This is the type of food you have to eat. A yogi should not eat garlic, for instance. A yogi should not even eat, even onion one should not eat. And then whatever is likely to produce, say this rajoguna in the body, he is not supposed to eat. He is only supposed to eat things which produce sattva guna. Because the food actually is responsible for our sattva, rajas and tamo gunas. So he has to avoid, he has to eschew all those food items. So that is the restriction is there. So he will take such vidhichodita mannam, whatever has been prescribed to him by the vidhi. Various texts are there which prescribe certain food for those people. Yatha vidhichodita mannam amrutakhyam bhunjate. So those people, whatever they eat also can be called amrutam. Iti yajna shishtamruta bhujaha yanti gachanti brahma sanatanam chirantanam mumukshavaschet kalatikramaapekshaya iti samarthyad gamyate. So he says, they yajna shishtamruta bhujaha yanti. Brahma yanti. Yanti means gachanti. They go. How? Brahma. Where? Brahma. Word Brahma, the meaning is Sanatanam Chirantanam. The word Sanatana we know. Sanatana means, does not mean ancient. Sanatana means does not mean ancient. Sanatana means eternal. Sanatana Sadatana. Sana and Sada are one and the same. Sada means always. Sanatana Sadatana. Chirantanam. That is, it is always eternal. Then mumukshavaschet kalatikramaapekshaya. If they are mumukshus, mumukshu is one who has desire in moksha, one who has desire in liberation. Those people who are having interest in liberation, the desire for liberation, kalatikramaapekshaya, that is in a course of time. Kala atikrama apekshaya, in a course of time. saying that in a passage after a passage of time, after a passage of certain time, iti samarthyad gamyate. So we have to understand by the context. By the context, samarthyat means by the context. By the context or by the structure of the sentence, we have to understand like this. Because you can't say that somebody who is doing yajna, he will attain Brahma. So we can't say that. So samarthyat means in the context, by the structure of the sentence, we have to take this particular meaning. Then nayam lokaha sarvaprani sadharanaha api asti yathoktanam okay, yathoktanam yajnanam ekopi यज्ञः यस्य नास्ति सः अयज्ञः तस्य कुतः अन्यः विशिष्टसाधनसाध्यः कुरुसत्तम. ओके, अयं लोकः सर्वप्राणिसाधारणोऽपि अस्ति. दिस् लोक is which is available for everybody. सर्वप्राणिसाधारणम्. Ayam lokaha, this loka, this world is sarva prani sadharana. It is available for anybody who is doing some good deed. That means it is accepting anybody who is doing some good deed. Sarva prani sadharana. Then yathoktanam yajnanam yekopi yajnaha yasya nasti. So out of all these yajnas which have been described, there may be one odd fellow who is such a stupid fellow or such a condemned man who he does not even do one good thing. यथोक्तानां यज्ञानां एकोपि यज्ञः यस्य नास्ति सः अयज्ञः. So ayajna is one who is not doing any of these good activities. There can be some such rotten fellow who is not doing any of these things. Not one of these things he is interested. He is neither interested in pranayama, he is neither interested in doing some other good work, neither interested in regular yajna, nothing. To such a man, ayajnah tasya kutaha anyah Vishishta sadhana sadhyaha kurusattama. When he is not able to get this world itself, what to talk about another world which is to be attained by special sadhana and sadhya? The other punya lokas, they have to be achieved by some sadhanas and sadhyam. These are all Vishishta sadhana sadhyaha. This other loka is to be attained by Vishishta sadhana. There is what is called sadhanam and sadhyam. Sadhanam is means. Sadhyam is a particular loka, a particular result which can be attained. So these are all other lokas, or even this loka are sadhana sadhyas. You have to do a yajna in order to be accepted by society. You have to do some good deed, you have to be accepted by society. And then in order to go to some other better worlds, better lokas, you have to do some other special type of yajna. Swargakamo yajeta, jyotishtomo swargakamena yajeta, swargakamo jyotishtomena yajeta. So these things are there. So unless you do like that, those special sadhanas, Vishishta sadhana, Vishishta means some special, something special or something specific, something which is extraordinary. So those things you have to follow. Yathoktanam yajnanam, Vishishta sadhana sadhyaha, kutaha anyaha. What to talk about another result which has to be acquired by some special effort. He is not even making an ordinary effort. What to talk about special effort? So that is the main thing. Evam iti. So next shloka let us read. Evam bahuvidha yajnaha vitata brahmano mukhe karmajan vidhitan sarvan evam gnatva vimokshyase. So this sentence, it very clearly specifies that all these things are karmajan vidhitan sarvan. All these things, they fall under the category of karma. So in the above shloka, yajna shishtamrita bhujaha yanti brahma sanatanam. So Shankaracharya, he gave the meaning, but say it is not directly, it is krama mukti. On what basis has he said that? By seeing this next line, on seeing this next shloka, because Shankaracharya also cannot give whatever meaning he wants. So he has to see the overall structure of the text, and depending on what Lord Krishna himself had said in some other shloka, he has to give the meaning in a particular context. So the first shloka, if you simply say, okay, Shankaracharya is giving any meaning what he likes, it's not correct. He will see what the next shloka says or what in some other context Krishna has said. He will see the overall context, and then there is an ekavakyata, there is a unity of thought. So that is how meanings are established in any text. So here this shloka says, Evam bahuvidha yajñaha vitata brahmano mukhe. Brahmanaha mukhe, from the face or from the mouth of that Brahma. What is this Brahma? Brahma means, here it means it refers to Veda. It is not referring to that four-headed Brahma or Supreme Brahman. It can refer to this four-headed Brahma also, it doesn't matter. Brahmanaha mukhe, from the, but the meaning given here by Shankaracharya is, Brahma, he is giving the meaning as Veda. From out of this Veda, bahuvidhaha yajñaha vitataha. Bahuvidhaha, different types of yajñas have been vitataha. Vitataha means elaborated, very, very elaborately, in a very detailed fashion they have been explained, they have been told. Bahuvidhaha yajñaha brahmanaha mukhe vitataha. So from the face or from the mouth of that Brahma, from the Vedas, so many things are elaborated. Then, Tan sarvan karmajan vidhi. Karmajan vidhi tan sarvan. Tan sarvan karmajan vidhi. You know that all these things are products of karma. Karmaja. That is product of karma. Product of an activity. Or suppose you are getting all types of yajna sambharas. You have say procured some say 100 kilos of ghee and say maybe about 500 kilos of rice and various other things. Okay, various other things. So all these things, that is all karma. There is an activity there. Also, whatever yajna you do, it is an activity. Then you do pranayama, that also is an activity. You do some other thing, say daiva yajna, that is again an activity. So all tapo yajna, that is again an activity. Kruchra Chandrayana Vratam, that is again an activity. Chandrayana Vratam we saw, that is following the path of the moon, the waxing and waning of moon, starting with 1 morsel of food and then going to 15 morsels and then again coming down to 1 morsel. So various types of things, all these exercises, all these things fall under the category of karma. So karma is something which is not going to give you moksha, because we have to remember always that Veda is also always talking about two levels. One is for somebody who is in the path of karma. One who is in the path of ritual rather, one who wants to continue in the path of, one who is only at that level. 99% of the people who want to continue at the path of ritual. And then maybe 1% of the people who want to go beyond and see what is truth. So Veda also talks about what is truth. So that is for a jnani. So that is what we see everywhere in this Veda. The first shloka of Ishavasya talks about renunciation and jnana. Then second shloka immediately says, it talks about kurvanneveha karmani jijivishes shatakam samaha. It talks about the people who are ordinary 99% of the people. The first shloka is about 1% of the people. The next shloka is about 99% of the people. So the society is in two strata. That is, one, those who want to follow the religious code of conduct, those who want to remain at the level of the religion, those who want to remain at the level of a ritual. So the ritual is there for that man. A karma or a ritual is there at the level of religion. But Veda also says you go beyond this ritual. You go beyond what you call religion. Go beyond your identity which is given to you by the religion. Say Ativarna Ashrami it takes. You go beyond your varna, your ashrama, your religion. You have to find out what is the truth. So that is what Veda says. So that is what we have to see here. Karmajan vidhi tan sarvan. You remember that all these things are at the level of karma only. And then by knowing this, evam jnatva vimokshyase. By knowing this, you will attain moksha. That is, by knowing this, once you know the limitation of one thing, it means, what does it mean? Once you know this is how it is. Beyond this is the scope, and beyond which we cannot go. Then you will follow the other path. So that is how that will lead you to moksha. So that is the meaning. So I think if the time is over, we will see in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. ఈరోజు 3 శ్లోకాలైందా?